Welcome back, everybody, to the Breachers VRML. I'm your host, Gibular Bob, joined today by the one, the only Nightfire with two E's. How are you doing, Nightfire?
I'm excellent, man. I'm feeling good. We got a hype matchup this afternoon. A big top-tier battle between Aesir and Fusion, ranked 3rd and 4th in the overall ladder. I mean, doesn't get a whole lot better than this, Bob. This is going to be top-tier Breachers, and I don't know. It could be done in 2 maps, frankly. Like, depending on how these teams perform this afternoon, we could be going to a map 3 decider. I'm very curious to see what kind of squad we're going to get from both sides today.
Yeah, a little bit of history in this matchup. Aesir and Fusion once battled each other in the Season 2 postseason way back when we were qualifying for VRMLCon 2024. It feels like it's been, like years since that's happened, but it's actually only been a year. Speaking of that, we've got VRMLCon 2025 coming up. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. But yeah, Fusion are back. They're actually running the Fusion name, but most of their players you might recognize from Ritual, which rebranded to this Fusion name. So not too many old Fusion players on this one, but there are some. Big Red 726 you might have seen there used to be on Fusion. Aesir, a team that has also seen some roster changes since their last season, but ultimately they've still got a solid 6-2 record. Their best map, Ship, 39 rounds played. They've won 72% of them. And Fusion having a little bit better of a record, 8-2, with Hideout being their best map, 38 rounds played, 74% of those rounds won. Hideout, still a very solid map for Aesir, Nightfire, but I actually do have the intel on the bans. And I can tell you where we're not going. We are not going to Mall, and we are not going to Arctic.
You know, it's interesting, again, to wonder what... Hey, I'm also curious, I'm looking at the records, I'm looking at where these teams like to go, those bans, not surprising to me, but one thing that does stand out is the history of this Fusion squad that's rebranded from Ritual, where they started their season going on an 8-0 win streak. They won 8 games in a row. Me and Martini jumped on a match in March where they actually lost, or no, they got 7 games in a row, excuse me. And then they lost their first game when me and Martini jumped in to Valor. They then lost again to Valiance, then they won, and then have won again. So they've really just had 2 losses kind of in the middle of their season, otherwise a really impressive record. And I think it's what's gotten them to this point now here, Bob, where they are going to be challenging a team like Aesir, who is a very familiar brand name to the VRML, a team that's been around for a long time and spreads across multiple leagues within the VRML. You see them in Vale, you see them in Pavlov, you see them pretty much everywhere the VRML opens up a new league. And it's an impressive brand that continues to be at the high level across those leagues too. It's like it's not an easy thing to maintain, right. And so it's always a challenge for them at the end of the day. Whenever I think a team like Aesir jumps into into a match, I feel like the general populace is kind of like, oh, let's see if Aesir loses today. It's not, let's see if Aesir's going to win, because they're so used to Aesir winning, because Aesir has been at the top for so long. And sometimes maybe that fuels them, I don't know. But the Aesir squad going to be locked in here with their standard roster, I think. I don't know that they are bringing any subs. It's hard to tell when players mess with their names and change them up, but maybe they are bringing in a sub, Bob, do you think, for their 5th to fill up this roster?
Yeah, we had an interesting name pop up here that I don't recognize from their team roster, but hey, we'll get into the game, and maybe it is a sub, maybe not. I don't know. Acer is typically a team. I feel like you would want to always have your A tier roster, or at least a team sub in the game. You don't want to be running.
They have a deep roster too. Not every team has 8 players that they run on their roster, and Acer does have that. So does Fusion. So subs, a likely thing we will see today. People coming in on map 2, 3, getting swapped in. But there it is. Maybe I'm curious. So we're doing a side swap here. as it looks like Aesir will be attacking and Fusion will be defending for our first map, which does look like it's being decided in the current moment. So once we have teams on side, oh yeah, Skyscraper, Bob, is where we're headed. What do the stats have to say about that one between these teams?
This is interesting. You do not see Skyscraper a lot this day and age, but if I had to make a guess, I would say Aesir picked this. They are the home team, so they got to pick map or side first. So that means that Aesir probably picked Skyscraper and Fusion took defense to start. But Aesir, Skyscraper's actually their second best performing map. 31 rounds played here, 68% of those rounds won. Now the two maps, Arctic and Maul, banned. I'm very surprised that we didn't see something higher up on the map order, get banned, but there's still quite a few options for both teams on the table as we get ready for our first map in this Aesir Fusion matchup here on Skyscraper, and it should be an exciting one. Aesir starting off on their offensive half and Fusion taking the defensive. I wonder if anybody else is getting deja vu back to postseason of season 2.
Yeah, it's you definitely can't let something like that. I mean, we're into season 4 at this point. You got to be shaking off the past. But yeah, we'll see. It's interesting that they haven't matched up since then, but we're here now, and it's an opportunity, like I said, for a team like Fusion, who hasn't typically sat up in that top 5 consistently. And now they're getting a chance against Aesir. I'm very interested to see what they're going to be bringing to the table today. They're coming off of a couple of wins off of their last few matches, and so if anything, they've got a little bit of momentum going in up against what is I think the favorites this afternoon, the Aesir squad. As we do get into our first round, the attack getting set up here as Doga pushes up to the door blocker.
Reaps opening up the window in the lower lounge. Doga drilling the door block, and you've got Tenkens waiting with that Spectral. Might notice some of the players have some fun little gloves on. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but look, it's a good start from Tenkens. Aesir taking the first pick, losing the first pick to Fusion. Hotline and Reaps staying in the window in lower lounge. STD quite low on health, but here comes the push, developing into lower lounge. Aesir looking to get some momentum. S-tier frag already coming in from Wash. 10K, Banana Man takes the connector. Reaps looking to get that EMP planted. Here's Mac on the flank. It might be able to work for them, but it's a 3-3 right now. Reaps taking out Banana Man. Wash 10K has to fall back into connector. Hotline with the perfect flank watch, and it's up to Wash 10K.
Finds one, looking for 2. Tech9 gonna chip down the HP of Wastan. The duo will barrel in, scoop up the final kill, and Aesir squeak away with the pistol opener. They do have only 1.5 left alive, not even if that. Oh, make it 1 as Hotline takes down Tech9. And they'll advance on to the next round with a little bit of extra money in their pocket, but still a nice little hold from Fusion. And that flank from Mac was, if it had come a little bit quicker, sometimes the patience can end up hurting you there. You have to be able to play to the speed of your opponent. And Acer's quick. They're not going to linger too long. And now we're getting the animated charms, the audio charms. There's new gloves, Bob. There's new skins in play this afternoon. It's a great showcase for the brand new update to this wonderful game delivered by Triangle Factory. We do appreciate their support. They're a direct sponsor of VRML and our season. And they do a fantastic job of updating the game consistently. It's been a long time for it feels like, what has it been, years of support now at this stage for this game, it feels like, but it is continuing to get awesome new stuff with new maps to new charms to new skins, new competitive season coming up for more stuff to earn. It's awesome. I love what they're doing with the game and how focused they are on the development of it. It makes me excited for their new game they're obviously working on too. I think that's going to, have some good quality in it too. But hey, we got to look at right now, round 2, kicking off, SMGs in hand.
Early swing in from Tech9 Jr. Wash 10K, finding first pick, but they're immediately refragged by Doga. 2 minutes on the clock. Mac and Tenkens double peeking the wall. Doga goes down. It's a 3 versus 4. And if you're Fusion, I suppose the strategy is to just team up on Aesir force a bunch of 1v2s or 1v multiple people, however many you can get. You just want to outnumber some of these Aesir players because, again, Aesir has some of the best players in the game. Minute 40 on the clock, and this is going to dramatically slow down the way this round plays out. Hotline, Reaps, and Tung Tung all still alive, but they've only got SMGs. Fusion also running Omens, so the playing field is a little bit even, especially because Fusion, well, I guess they're both about even in terms of utility, but so far, Fusion a little bit more dug in, and Aesir looking to pick up the pieces of not a great start.
Pretty sizable investment coming in from Fusion as well. Right. Both teams committing heavily into this round, and to both lose 1-2 players, that stings. It's not enough to eco, but like it does kind of put it in the mind for Aesir. Do we consider ecoing? They're playing a little bit more slower, that's to say the least, as Tung does rotate around here to open up some windows, try and draw some attention from that defense away from what is the duo rotating quickly up to objective. Reaps and Hotline trying to push in towards A site.
Banana Man and Mac both picking up quite a bit of damage. They don't want to get double swung by Aesir. Tung Tung with a kill onto Mac. Bad frag. Reaps takes down another Fusion player with an incendiary 10 cans with one Omen kill. And it's up to STD, who collects Reaps, but Hotline finds that final kill. Makes it 2-0 for Aesir. And hey, even if they're down in players, they can still just bring back around in the blink of an eye. You can never count Aesir out.
Aesir's locked in on the opener, but I love to see Fusion battling as close as they are. It is their defensive half on Skyscraper. That's worth considering, that now 2 offensive points have been locked in by this Aesir squad. You don't typically want to let go of rounds on defense on Skyscraper, so it may end up hurting them when it comes to side swap to even have these 2 go through. But I do feel like Fusion has the ability to hold things down. It's going to be harder here just because of the EMP plant coming through, the round wind coming in. They've got a lot of utility they're going to be able to utilize here. Fusion, meanwhile, stuck with low-tier rifles and SMGs, which can be effective. We do see those, what are they, like surprise rounds, hero rounds come through with these SMGs sometimes. So I'm not counting them out, and they've been looking good so far, but Aesir could settle into a bit of a rhythm here, and that can get dangerous.
Yeah, the last thing you want is for Aesir to start snowballing in terms of momentum. A frag tossed in. Wash 10K picks up 1 point of damage, which doesn't seem too significant, but it does alert Aesir to the fact that somebody is in bathroom. Now, they are not anticipating Mac to also be in there. We might get a surprise kill. Fusion have been good at getting the early pick, but can they surprise Hotline or Doga? Here comes the swing out, and Hotline will go down. Reaps with the refrag, and it was actually a team kill by Reaps onto Hotline. Fusion did not find that first pick. 3 versus 4, though, as it could be a little bit dangerous here for Fusion. Remember, they don't have the Vezins and high-tier rifles that they're looking for. Wash 10K will look to swing out, but look, Tech9 Jr. just W keys into the site, collects the headshot onto Wash. And it's now a 2 versus 4. What do you even do here if you're Banana Man and STD?
Yeah, you're in a tight spot to say the least. Banana hears the footsteps in the smoke and finds a couple of quick headshots on the Tech. That's a nice little bounce back, a nice little bite that takes it to a 2v3. EMP's finally going to go down as Aesir settle just a little bit. They've been getting quite aggressive here, feeling confident with that push. Now they're going to force the retake, and the trio very much comfortably alive and well. Rifle down. Banana Man trying to scoop it up. Will get it without getting hit. That's worth ecoing through to the next round, honestly. So I wonder if they're just going to sit back in A and try and hold.
Yeah, at this point, I'd say batten down the hatches, and it looks like that might be what Banana Man and STD are going to try and do. STD, I think, is going to go for the pick out in Courtyard. I don't know if I'd leave Banana Man alone here, because you know that Aesir know that they have a rifle, and they're going to push and try and get those kills. Banana Man's low on health. I'm very surprised that they did not trade weapons. We'll see if Banana Man can survive the post round as the EMP ticks off. It's now 3-0 hat trick of rounds for Aesir in a defensive round that, well, Fusion have really been struggling to put points on the board.
Yeah.
These rounds are getting close, though.
Yeah, that one wasn't too bad. I honestly feel like that eco through is kind of nice. Puts Fusion in a decent buy here, where otherwise you would have to do partial. They can actually commit a couple of guys into full rifles and have enough left for utility. It's still going to be a big buy, but they do have then a little bit of bank to rely on for next round if they do lose. So I think there's a good shot that they can take the next few rounds here if they do lock it in. Because again, that was a eco down round, Bob, that they almost took. They almost held. I mean, 2v3, I guess. That's kind of a weird ending. I don't know if I've ever had that many people alive on two different teams. Like split between teams like that. But yeah, there's 5 people alive, and it was split down the middle. I don't think I've ever seen that actually on an eco round, now that I think about it.
Yeah, typically...
maybe.
It's usually either like one team is alive and nobody else on the other team is. It's kind of an odd pairing to see that many players alive. But here on round 4, we see Aesir outside of radio. There's 10 cans waiting in the podcast room along with STD. And now they've got some rifles over on Fusion. A couple of Vezins and a Marui. STD and Wash 10K still running the RLs, but hey, they can make those worthwhile as well. 2 minutes on the clock. Aesir starting to get their move, but it's slow. This is typically not what we see from Aesir. They're usually much faster. 10 cans opening up with first pick. Wash 10K did go down as well. A couple frags tossed, but nobody goes down quite yet. 10 cans will to an incendiary, to their own incendiary nonetheless. Reaps with the kill onto STD, and it's already a 4 versus 2. Banana Man in trouble. You can see the clone projector confusing Aesir a little bit, but Tech 9 already pushing into sight. Banana Man trapped, has nowhere to go. They take out Tech 9 with them. It's all up to Mac on the flank, collecting hotline. EMP's now down. 2 versus 1. What do you do here? Mac does not have a healing syringe to keep their health points up. EMP planted. Reaps and Tung, all they have to do is play it safe in the site, and there's not a whole lot Mac could do.
I mean, again, this Fusion team is doing a nice job of fighting back against Aesir, but it's just either a little too late or just a little bit discombobulated, a little out of less coordinated than Aesir is, and I think Aesir are really just looking to be in good form this afternoon. They're in sync. Their breaches are happening at the same time. They've got plenty of utility. They're in control of the economy. It's the attacking half on Skyscraper. This could be, at this stage, could be a 7-0 map 1 opener with Aesir just kind of barreling through Skyscraper here.
Yeah, Skyscraper's usually a map that gets banned or not played. And I think maybe some teams have eased off on the strategy and preparation for this map, but to Acer's point here, that could be a detriment for some teams. If you're not focusing on Skyscraper and you're not banning it, there is a possibility that you could play on this map. The other thing that I want to point out is that we are really in kind of a utility dump meta. So everybody's going to throw their grenades at the same time. Everybody's going to exhaust their utility, and then you just you see everybody run in. And that's really where Aesir, I think, is getting a lot of momentum on Fusion. Fusion's dumping all of their utility, and then they don't have anything to stop Aesir when they decide to push. You need to see some good incendiaries, good frag usage, but so far, I think they're just lacking a little bit in the utility department. Both teams have good gun skill, but I think it's going to come down to execution and utility usage.
Yeah, we're seeing that new clone drone coming in. That's definitely one of those new utility pieces that can be deployed. Introduced recently with an update from, Triangle Factory. Again, just implementing all sorts of new stuff that keeps this game so fresh consistently. It's great to see options open up for defense on what they can spend their money on, and we're definitely seeing that the clone drone coming in pretty frequently.
Yeah, clone device, it certainly throws the teams and players off. I've seen a lot of people have a difficult time actually getting used to it, but right now, look at the momentum from Aesir pushing in. 10 cans, however, bouncing back with double kill of their own. Aesir in a little bit of trouble. Mac making excellent use of that Marui. But look, the EMP getting planted by Reaps. There's Wash 10K in connector. They dive out. Reaps goes down. This could be it. No, Hotline takes out 2. And, well, maybe a little caster's curse there as Fusion find their first round.
I mean, a good bit of coordination there from Fusion. They really did have a bit of a, I wouldn't say outplay, but they played it right. You know, the flank hit just at the right time. Tenkan getting 2 or 3 kills there that just completely stalls out the initial push. It allows for more players to reinforce on that site, and ultimately you just get a really nice defense from Fusion where they're collapsing down onto the last attacker, killing them as they try to push in. It looked clean. It looked nice. They lost 2 at the end, which stings, you know, because when you're losing, you're relying on your loss bonus when you spend money. But when you suddenly win, especially like round 5, you then might not have enough money to like fully buy in. It does look like they're okay for the most part. I think they have plenty of money for utility, but it is right to the limit, and that's what you want to be. I guess that's fine to be right. The last round of the half, it's okay to be out of money. Yeah,
we'll see if that's excuse me. To that point. Yeah, this is fine to run out of cash at this point because you already got rifles and util and everything that you need. But 2 minutes 20 on the clock. Maybe Aesir can make it a 5-1, but if Fusion have anything to say about it, we could see a 4-2 heading into the second half. 2 minutes 15 on the clock. Early drone action coming in from Aesir, looking to get as much intel as they can, spotting clones, and they're being thorough. They're doing their due diligence, if you will, making sure that they're not going to shoot at a false player and give up some free intel or try and throw off the Fusion team. Wash 10K hanging inside of storage. Doga prepped right outside for a breaching foam push onto A. Wash 10K opens up with the first pick of the round. Hotline. Quick response. 10Can's moving up to the door to salvage the rifle from their teammate, but I have a feeling we're going to see an Aesir blitz here very, very soon.
Yeah, walls cracked open, Hotline set up for any push to the doorway, and a nice tuck in from Fusion as 10Cans continues to be a standout shooter for this Fusion team. Scoops up one on site. It's going to look for a little bit more. Uses that clone to their advantage, and look at that. It drew Reap's attention to the corner beautifully as 10Cans pops up for a second kill.
It's up to Hotline and Tung Tung. Minute 10. Not really much you can do in terms of salvaging. You have to push this if you're Aesir. It's the last round of the first half. Tung Tung getting some heals in 55 seconds on the clock. As Hotline, Tung Tung have their work cut out for them. What do? Tung Tung finds one. Hotline looking to maybe take out 10Cans as well, but 10Cans finding that first kill. Here comes the rush from Hotline, and they will take one down with them, but it is a 4-2 half. Aesir takes lead, but, well, Fusion started to bring it back.
Yeah, that was a really clean 2-round bounce back from a team that had really potentially let Aesir spiral out of control. We swapped sides, and Bob, it has me wondering and reflecting, right? Skyscraper has shifted in meta over time, and I do feel like at the high tier, offensive rounds being won isn't unheard of. You know, I think that if Fusion can come in locked in like they were in those last 2 rounds, maybe open up with a pistol win here just to set themselves up for a nice little bonus in the second round, we could see some, a tie game 4-4 pretty quickly. I think it's within the cards for this Fusion team, so they just got to kind of focus up on what they can do here for round 7, and we may see a tiebreaker. We may get to that 6-6 point. I don't know, but Aesir definitely were getting challenged there in those final 2 rounds, and they had control of the economy.
Yeah, I was thinking about saying this, that Skyscraper is kind of that anomaly map, because it used to be you had to win every defensive round because offense was so difficult. But towards the end of season 2, and especially during the VRML Con 2024 finals, offense seemed like the side to be on, that you wanted to be on. It was getting easier for offensive teams to get rounds, and I think we could see that reflected here if Fusion start winning the next couple of rounds. We'll find out, as it is a fast push into bathroom. Tech9 picks up a lot of damage. Incendiary is deployed. We're going to see the bathroom push. Question is, are Fusion watching out for the roamer? They are. Tung backs off a little bit. Minute 45 on the clock. Here comes the breach into site B.
Good damage done. A nice peek from Mac on the side. Finds one. Nades come flying into the backline to zone out as Aesir push them forward, but they are winning on their pushing forward. Through the smoke, a kill from Doga. 10 cans and Wash 10k are suddenly all that's left, but HP bars are low for Aesir.
Pistol round's not indicative of how everything will go. 10 cans, finding Reaps. Ooh. Wash 10k, picks up Doga, and suddenly it's a 1 versus 1 is Tung looking to keep Aesir ahead with a strong lead. Wash 10k's in trouble though, because they don't have any health to take more than 1 hit. It's 1 hit and it's over. I think maybe to that effect, Tung is going to take probably 2 hits before they go down. But it's going to be close. And also I'd like to point out that Wash 10k has 14 bullets in their Spectral. They might swap out the gun. They collect EMP, 40 seconds left on the clock. And I think we're seeing some hesitation. Neither one of these players knows where the other is. They're crouching, reducing movement as much as possible, reducing noise. And they're right around the corner from each other. Wash 10k going to push into the B2 lounge. Only 20 seconds left on the clock. And the moment you hear that EMP audio cue, I have a feeling Tung is going to peak this and it's going to be game over for Fusion. And there it is. Good pre-fire from Tung, keeping Aesir ahead with a 3-round lead. And again, pistol round doesn't necessarily mean it's Aesir's half, but that was a nice clutch from Tung.
Yeah, this is impressive opener here for the Aesir squad. Looking good on map number 1 on Skyscraper. The pistol round sets them up nicely for what could have been a Fusion comeback. It's still in the cards, but yeah, Aesir now can buy in a little heavier if they want to, just some rifles and whatnot. And we're looking on a bit of an eco here from Fusion. But it's really in the round. They may be still deciding on how they want to spend their cash, where they want to invest their money, and what their play is going to look like. You know, that determines if you're going to bring a drone, where you're going to deploy that, where the setup comes in from, is there utility that you're tossing. It looks like we're actually going to have a double drone potentially split, but you can even see them. They're buying and selling. And no, I got a drone already. You know, the communication, that's why there is 50 seconds at the start of these rounds, basically, for these teams to decide amongst each other, what are we all picking up and what's the best way that we can use our team economy to win this round.
Yeah, it's all about the communication, min-maxing, and getting the correct util, playing out the rounds, hopefully according to strategy, but a lot of things can go wrong, and Tung very low, as well as Tech9 Jr., but ultimately 10k is the one who's going to go down at the start of the round. Fusion, not ideal for them. They don't want to give up first pick, especially because they need to start getting rounds under their belts. Hotline picks up the RL, swapping it with their teammate. 10 cans makes their way through the upper north hallway. Doga could catch them. Oh, slight timing difference. And 10 cans lives to push a little bit farther into the site. Doga, however, collecting STD, the rest of the push developing over to the podcast room. Hotline gets ready to swing out, and 10 cans is waiting with an RCP. Oh, both Doga and Tung on the flank, though. And I have a feeling that Fusion might be in trouble, especially as Hotline keeping them suppressed from one angle. Double incendiaries, Banana Man and Mac have nowhere to go. They're stuck in the worst angle ever. And they're overwhelmed so fast by Aesir. It's now match point, flawless. Nobody on Aesir died that round. Tremendous effort.
Love to see the new, what are they? What would you call them? Tags at the end of a round showing up there. But yeah, the flawless one we don't see too often. Everyone nearly dead on Aesir, to say the least. But again, it's like even when Fusion lose, it's close. There wasn't a single kill there, but everyone almost died. You know, like it was a wonderful attempt from Fusion, especially down on economy there after losing the pistol round. But now things are going to get even harder from here on out. They must win the next 4 rounds in a row. If they lose, map 1 goes pretty quickly into Acer's hands, 7-2, and we go on to a second map pick, which I imagine will be Fusion's map pick. I feel like maybe Acer picked Skyscraper here. Looking at the stats, I don't think Fusion have even played this map this season.
They probably didn't, again, because it's just not played too often. But just commenting on the last round really quick, I just like the way that Acer played it. You know, they had low players, but what did? They swapped guns with each other. They put lower players in the back line and kept the higher players, higher health players up towards the front to take and start soaking up some damage. Watch 10K, taking out Doga, but they're refragged by Tung, as it's an early double spawn peek from Acer. Mac out in courtyard trying to pinch Hotline, but that's not going to be the easiest thing to do. 2 minutes on the clock. STD taking a little bit of damage from Hotline, but there's the swing in from Mac, who's immediately denied by Reaps. Minute 50, though, 3 versus 3.
Nice little swing there from Reaps. Keeps them in the bathroom. I don't think the duo was ready for that. Tung could fly out that second floor window and be a threat in the bathroom. A nice through the wall kill by Tech9 as they continue to push up, trying to find STD, who's tucked into that corner, battling away too.
There you get a nice view of the Sakura bundle from STD. Brand new bundle. It just dropped today along with the gloves. Shout out to Triangle Factory. Love the new bundle. Gilded on the ground, too. It's just, you got to love their new skins. But 1v2, and STD's about to be pinched. There it is. That's it. Map 1, Skyscraper, going to Acer in a fairly dominant fashion. Again, there were some close rounds here, but ultimately, Acer walk away with a solid 5-round lead over Fusion.
It is what you expect on the scoreboard, but I think people tuning in definitely got to see a really nice back and forth. Very consistent performance from both teams, both very coordinated, and ultimately Fusion putting a pretty good foot forward in this first map. Despite them being down by 5 on the overall scoreboard, their KDs were pretty legit. Up there with Acer, and I do feel like, depending on obviously again where we go for map 2, that we're in for a really good map 2. I mean, look at Tenkins, 9-9, Washed 8-8, Max 6-7. In comparison, Hotline 9-6, Tung 9-4, Tech 5-7. So the KD's relatively close. Reaps leading the lobby with 10 kills on the board, but it's impressive to see just how tight Fusion kept it in the fights. Again, a lot of 1v2s, a lot of close ending to rounds, and even when they did lose that flawless round, nearly everybody was all near death on Acer. So this is ranked 3 versus ranked 4. You expect this to be a pretty good matchup, and I've certainly enjoyed that opening map on Skyscraper. That was the coordination from Acer, from my perspective, looks even better than it has in past seasons, Bob. I feel like they were really on point on a couple of those offensive pushes.
And they were in a little bit of a rut, right? They lost to F3, then they lost to Ivy, then they lost to Valor, and then they exited the Season 3 postseason earlier than anybody thought they would. And then they started off this season still in trouble, but it's nice to see that Acer has finally started to find their footing again. They've had a beautiful comeback, and you can tell they've been training. They've been running it. They've been preparing, and it's paying off, right? They've returned to kind of that Acer that we all know, the one that dominates most of the teams they play against. We'll see if they can stay in the number 1 spot, but they do still have the formidable Ivy F3 to worry about. So at the moment, we'll find out if Ritual has what it takes to stay in the game, because right now they're in a little bit of trouble. They need to start putting some rounds on the board and hopefully turn that into a map.
Yeah, interested to see how Factory goes for us here as we do get ready to dive into round number 1. And it's, Fusion get to set the pace here in these opening seconds, and I'm curious if they're going to kind of go quick in or maybe take things slow and methodical. The drone, something that we always advocate for, Bob, even in pistol rounds, comes through but gets quickly shot down by Hotline.
Mac waiting outside of Tetris, and I have a feeling we're going to see them rush in quickly. Hotline tossing the frag, but it's too late. There's double swung, but Hotline still found the double and all of that, and they almost found a triple. However, it's suddenly down to 10 kids. The last member of Fusion standing. What a rough first round for Fusion. It's crazy. Two people swung Hotline at the same time, and they still did not find the kill. That's unfortunate.
Wow, that was a bit of a blur there when the drop-in comes there. And yeah, Hotline, I mean, that's the worst-case scenario for the duo to lose the 1v2. And then for him to be able to spin and be a threat even further, it's just rough. Not exactly what you're hoping for when you are pushing in off of a map 1 loss. But just a pistol round, SMGs in the hands of a few of the Fusion players here. Still buying into the drone. Discipline is coming in here on the Fusion side. And that's really what you expect for a team that's made it to this point. That's won 8 games in the regular season and only lost twice. 8-2 record's pretty impressive, Bob. You know, because at some point you go up against a team like Aesir or a squad that's high up in the top 10. And I think they're certainly doing well for probably... I mean, again, to the point, their first time playing against this team since Season 2.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can't say that Fusion isn't performing well, because they are. These rounds are still getting close, and they still have the potential here to beat out Aesir. 10 cans with a nice opening onto Doga. That's the kind of start that you want to see. I think Fusion do better when they can pick up the first kill of the round. But they just have to move quickly, especially on this site combination, because Tung Tung is going to be upstairs. They're going to be poking at the upstairs players. They've got to get that EMP down and planted quickly. To do that, they're going to have to worry about Tech9 and Hotline both suppressing the A site. Reaps in the connector. So Aesir are quite dug in here. We'll see how Fusion responds.
Yeah, Tenkan's going to finally drop back off from that front spot. The nade pushing him back. Little drone comes bobbing and weaving through to the site. Gets a little bit of information on where this Aesir defense is set up. With the hatch open, there's options for utility and some plays, but the utility not quite going where they wanted it to. I think they wanted that to hit to the back corner where Hotline is. And instead, Hotline's still going to be well and healthy, fighting back to push through the hole in the wall.
There's a drop from Wash 10K, but they just took too long. And the upstairs flanker, Tung Tung, just devastated the Hatch Watch players. It was too late. It was too late. You have to be fast with this push. And in Fusion's case, it did not work. It's up to 10 cans. The last member of Fusion standing in round 2. Hotline tossing an incendiary. 10 cans picks up even more damage. They're just on 7 health. And at this point, I say salvage the Viper. Get out with what you can. And then at least in the next round, 10 cans won't have to buy a gun. They drop Hotline. I don't know. Was it worth it?
Yeah, it's hard to say. A little bit of cash into the individual pocket. Versus taking the SMG through. Maybe they're not feeling confident right now. They were just kind of sending it. I don't know. But it's hard to eco sometimes when you're not really in control or close to winning. You know, it's hard to stay and just kind of let the clock tick down and not go for the glory. You know, like so, you hope optimistically that you may be able to win a 1v3 if you push in. Maybe everyone's low enough where when he drops in there, the SMG connects, but it's a gamble, and we saw the gamble not pay off there. Sometimes we see humongous clutch plays, and that's how you get onto the highlight reels that on the VRML network. But yeah, it's didn't work out for him there on that drop down, and I don't know. We'll see if they can kind of figure it out here going into these next few rounds. Again, on the attack, able to set the pace, but Aesir clearly hunkering down now, and with utility, it's going to get a little harder to push through this Aesir front line.
Especially because of those rifles. Aesir are stacked. Rifles, utility, everything you could ever want as a defensive player. We'll find out if they can keep up this wonderful defensive momentum they've started out with. Tech9 Jr. almost caught the feet of Banana Man, but there's entry upstairs by Fusion. 10 cans, probably looking to play one of the hatches, try and surprise the Aesir defense. 2 minutes, Tech9, one onto STD, but they're refragged by Mac, and there goes the hatch open from server. However, everybody on Aesir has already rotated back to the site. Question is, I think Tech9 dropped a Vez in there, so that's going to be a nice pickup for Fusion.
Yeah, they're going to all try and barrel into the outside of B, which is a little dangerous. The clone, kind of scary, sitting there in the corner. Still took a couple of shots, but now they're in, and Hotline just avoids the shots through the wood there. Tung swings out for a hole-in-the-wall battle, and here we go. The push onto site, not going the way. Oh, the swing. Doga with a triple.
From out of nowhere, nonetheless. Cleaning up 3 players, and Fusion again losing around to Aesir. There's just not been a response, and I think at this point maybe we're starting to see the mental game struggle a little bit from Fusion, because they're just getting more reckless with these pushes. Aesir are getting more and more confident, and it's starting to snowball for Aesir.
Yeah, it really is. 3-0. 7-2 map 1 win. If they win here, the series is done, and we're out of here, Bob. We don't play that third map like we do in Vale, so Fusion have a little bit to fight for right now. They're going to want to at least push 2 points on the board, so when it comes to their side on defense, they've got a little flexibility because Aesir have been looking clean on the attack, so can't really rely on them fumbling their offensive rounds, and you definitely want to pick up a couple yourself on Factory, but it's tough. I mean, Aesir, again, are locked in. They're feeling confident, and that means they're going to push you while on defense, which makes it unpredictable when you're attacking the site.
In round 4 we go. Fusion, desperate to get at least something here in this first half. Tung waiting again in lockers, trying to poke at the Fusion offense. Drone goes down, and they might try and go for this kill quickly. Tung is not backing off, though. They're about to get double swung. They do find Banana Man before going down. That's a rifle dropped by Aesir, but it doesn't matter because Fusion already had rifles of their own. Tech9 swinging out, but does not take out Mac. And now, Fusion have numbers advantage. This could start to work out in their favor. Smoke toss. We're seeing a bit of a utility dump going on between the two teams right now. 1:45 on the clock. Here comes the push from Fusion.
Nade comes out, not going to connect, and a lot of guesswork going on through the wall here. Fusion a little lacking in confidence to swing in to breach that wall. And the swing from the flank, Bob. Doga is slowly creeping and crawling their way up the stairs.
STD might be the first to go, but Mac watching the window. Doga, I can't believe it didn't clear that window out. However, Hotline eventually found Mac, although that gave Wash and STD an opportunity to push in and bring Fusion back into this game. They take their first round against Aesir. I think if Doga had cleared out that window, they may have actually won that round on Aesir. But hey, that's good for Fusion. They needed this. This is a good. They're finally back. They could technically tie this up right now. At the moment, you got to take it round by round and at least try and get one more.
Yeah, their economy isn't like great. You know, they won. They got some money, but it's going to be partial buy SMGs and utility coming in from them. They're probably going to save a little bit. I don't know why you would round 5. You might as well just spend what you got, but I don't know. The eco choice here is definitely what's being pondered by the likes of Fusion, and I do feel like it's probably better to just commit in heavy to this round. I don't know.
Well,
hard to say.
Yeah, we'll find out. It's a start for Fusion, but they still have quite a bit of work to do. Opening up the downstairs, getting ready to push into orange storage. Doga over in B. Love to see the clone projectors everywhere. You know, it's confusing me sometimes. Tangan opening up with a kill onto Doga and almost pushed right into B. Tech9 Jr. trying to hold down the fort. but it's an early pick for Aesir to give up. Maybe Fusion can turn this into even more momentum.
Yeah, a lot of shots to the wall again, and the flank coming in slowly but surely. Tung scoops up 1, 2, almost 3. That would have been a disaster, but Aesir isn't going to overpress. 3v3.
STD stopped that wild push. Frags tossed from both sides. Reaps and Tech9 still holding B. Hotline keeping A under their watch. 10 cans makes their move. Now almost over to electrical. I'm surprised we haven't seen the push switch up to site A. It hasn't happened yet. Maybe Mac and STD can make this work. 1:15 on the clock. Reaps in the back of site B. Walls opened up. Smokes tossed. Tech9 Jr. holding the angle under the storage rack. They're now alone. Mac goes down. Swings out. 2 onto STD, and it's now a 1 versus 1. 10 cans hold out against Tech9 Jr. 55 seconds on the clock. They do still survive. And Fusion find a second round here on map 2.
Wow, that was, like, I guess their wins are as close as their losses, Bob, That was another very close round into the pocket of Fusion. But like you said, they're getting closer and closer to the 3-3 reality, and now their economy is in good shape. In comparison, Aesir don't have a whole lot to lean into. They invested heavily in those last few rounds, and it's going to be a kind of a ragtag crew of utility and SMGs, shotguns coming in here for the Aesir defense. So 3-3, definitely a potential reality here for Fusion, but Aesir also very capable of clutching. If there's ever a team, Bob, that can surprise you and clutch in a moment like this, it's the Aesir defense.
They're certainly capable, and they are probably going to they're going to try and replicate what they did on map 1. Take it 4-2. You see some shotguns coming out, and this is actually a good floor because there are a lot of angles you can pop around and get a quick kill. It's a very tight back half of this third floor, and I can absolutely see the value in shotguns. Doga has actually already picked up a kill onto 10 cans. Another aggressive start from Aesir, but once more it pays off. Drone pushing over through the rest of blue hallway, scouting out Tung in a little bit of a steried match, but they bait out that drone. 2 minutes on the clock. Fusion on the move. Aesir still looking to hold down the fort.
Clone coming in here big time. That hole in the wall does draw shots from Tech9. It would have connected if it was an actual player, but instead it's a clone. So Tech9 for now gonna hold the angle, not shoot at what they think is a player, and we're into a 4v4.
And Animan, Tech9 Jr. on the other side of the wall from each other. Almost back to back there. 1:30. Tech9 swings out again. Tries to get 10 cans. But as long as Fusion play the distance, Tech9 almost goes down. Tung on the flank through Tetris. They may be able to find a cheeky pick. We'll see. 1:15 now. EMP getting planted. STD finding Reaps. 4 versus 3. 1:10 now. Here comes the swing out from Tung. They stop the EMP plant for a little bit longer. Banana Man stranded, however. Tech9 caught out. And it's up to Hotline. And it's 3-3 with Fusion keeping it tied into the second half.
Pretty nice comeback here from Fusion to put this thing up to a 3-3. But let's see. Now they get to defend. Aesir put up a really nice offensive half on Skyscraper where they won 4-2. They don't need to necessarily do that here. They just need to lock in. Well, yeah, actually they do. They need to win 4 rounds to get themselves the map 2 in the series. But there's a real chance, Bob, Fusion at least pushes this to a tie or maybe even to a map 3 decider. I think it's in the cards with how this team's been performing. You look at the KDs. The kill leader on the top of the leaderboards is Tung, 8-4. Hotline, 5-5. But right there next to him, 10 Can, 7-4. 4-5 from SCD. So very close for the 1-2 on both sides on that scoreboard. But yeah, we'll see. So on round 7 here, pistols, side swap, everything fresh. and an opportunity for Fusion to do a little magic on defense.
Fusion is still the number 4 team. Don't forget that. They're capable. They're capable of this. They can pull this off. But they've still got a lot of work to do. Aesir are a team that you can't let your guard down ever, because they can come back in an instant. The pistol round, it's a fresh slate, fresh second half. It's all up to Fusion now to bring it home, take themselves into that third map. Mac with an early pick onto Doga, but both Mac and STD quite low on health. Here comes the utility dump. Reaps goes down to an S tier frag. Wash 10K holding the back of site A. 5 versus 3. Good start for Fusion. Tung quite low on health. This could be the break that Fusion needed. Mac downstairs on the flank, and Aesir in trouble.
Yeah, they are in danger of being flawless themselves. Oh, as I say it, Tenkins goes down. Mac at 1 HP, also super low. There's a nice pickup from Washed on the back line, but we just keep trading back and forth. Hotline and Tech both connect with their targets, but where is the flank from Mac? It needs to happen now.
It may work on Hotline here. They have to hurry before Banana Man gets caught. Hotline distracted by the static. They go down. It's up to Tech9 Jr. in that 1 versus 2. That was exactly what they needed to have happen. Mac on 1 health. They still can't get hit at all. They almost got hit through the wall. That would have been terrible for them. 50 seconds on the clock. Tech9 in a lot of trouble here. They've got ammo, but they're facing 2 other Fusion players looking for Banana Man. 40 seconds now, as Tech9 is running out of options. The EMP on the other side of the map, well defended by these Fusion players. Insane movement coming out from Tech9. They may... Oh, they're going to push. Benjamin swings out. 1 goes... Oh my goodness, Tech9 Jr. This is why they put Tech9 on Aesir. Look at that 1v2 clutch. They even got double swung. Fusion played that exactly how they were supposed to, and Tech9 still got the 1v2.
They just missed their shots there, I think, is what it comes down to. You know, they weren't expecting a player to come barreling forward at them like that, and it's, well, Tech9 coming out on top in the double. Pistol round into the hands of Aesir, and dang, that one stings maybe more than, like, losing map 1. Yeah. That round right there is a tough one to swallow, because you're thinking time's ticking, 30 seconds, we got this locked, EMP's on our side, and then, yeah, you missed the double challenge, and oof. Good job, though, again, from Tech, and that's a double kill that'll go to the highlight reel, Bob.
Absolutely, yeah. Aesir goes to VRML Con 2025. I think we know what clip is going to be playing there. But anyways, 5 versus 5. Here we go. Round number 8. Fresh 2.5 minutes on the clock. 10K holding down the fort in orange storage, looking to clear out that drone early. Swings out, doesn't find it. I'm waiting for Aesir to just collapse in and start rushing the site, and I think that's what they're doing right now. Good incendiary deployment from Tung. Doga is actually flanking through assembly, and hopefully for Fusion, they turn around in time. Otherwise, Doga is going to get 1, 2, looking to make it a 3rd, but here comes the other push from the other side of the site. 10K goes down. Tung drop 2. It's up to Banana Man. They're alone in connector. And a steamroll from Aesir. They walked right in, collected all the kills that they needed, and got the 5-3 score.
Yeah, really, again, what we've been seeing from them on Skyscraper, their offensive coordination on point. I feel like the pistol rounds, the early rounds, maybe not Fusion's expertise, but we have seen them settle into the back half of the rounds pretty consistently. So I do feel like maybe as we get into these later ones, you know, rounds 10, 11, 12 into this, if we get that far into this map, they may start fighting back on defense. But for now, Aesir are just in sync. That was a really nice pinch from both sides simultaneously, nicely timed, makes it really hard to avoid and ultimately even possibly defend. So again, that's just what you expect out of a team that's had experience being at the top like Aesir. And I'm impressed with how close Fusion is keeping this, with how good Aesir looks here in this series. But still, it's not over yet. We're into round 9, and the defensive half, I feel like, is a little easier on Factory than offense.
But still, they've been struggling to put in any rounds since the pistol round. So there's still trouble here for Fusion. They can't get comfortable. Acer's not letting them. STD clearing out Hotline. They've, for the amount of rounds that Acer has won, quite a few of them have started with them losing a player early to Fusion. Tung Tung makes their way into Orange Vendings, looking to pinch Mac and 10K. Tech9 Jr. drops down the storage hatch. They're alone, and they're in trouble. Here comes the push from Mac. Beautiful Canut kill. Tung Tung makes their way from the flank. Good cloaking device. The stealth gameplay. STD rotating back into B. Tung Tung making it a kill for Acer. 4 versus 2. However, Fusion do not have the rifles and firepower that Acer do.
Who and Mac now swinging out through the trip mine. Really nice play from Mac, and Fusion with 3 left alive put up a very clean defensive hold. They did this in map 1 on defense. They put 2 points up early in their first half, and I feel like Fusion definitely has a defense that can counter Acer. Just, I guess, depending on the situation. This objective hasn't gone well for them consistently, Bob. So I'm curious, now that we go again to this basement, if Acer are going to try to deploy the same strat or a fresh one for that B site.
I think, knowing Acer, they're just going to keep it conventional. They're not going to get too crazy with plays and strategy. That's never really been their strong suit. That's the specialty of a team like Valor that's known quite well for the crazy plays and strats that they come up with. So I have a feeling we're going to see that same B push that we've seen from Acer, not just because Acer doesn't like to often, play too many crazy strategies, but also because it's just been working for them, right? Every time we've had this site combination and they've pushed B, it's typically worked out for them, especially the last time they were here. They stormed in like they own the place and completely cleared out Fusion. Here comes a drone into Orange storage, and Acer looking to get in quickly. Tech9 Jr. is actually flanking this time. They're not going to push from assembly, but I have a feeling that Fusion are going to be expecting a roamer.
Yeah, they're going to be maybe over-expecting it.
Yeah.
Which could end up drawing them a little bit away from a different style of push, maybe an A-site push, but we'll see as Acer set themselves up for the outside of B. A little bit of drone work coming in, getting some good info.
There's Tech9 right outside of Site A. I have a feeling once we start to get a lot of action on B, Tech9 is going to try and stealth their way in. 1.5 minutes on the clock. Acer hanging out in Orange storage at the moment. The walls opened up. The sites are opened up. Frags are tossed, but nobody has been killed yet. It's still a 5 versus 5 with 1:20 on the clock. Here comes the push. It's actually a complete switch up over to Site A by Acer. SCD holding down the fort. The collect Doga, but Hotline with the refrag. However, it's been enough time for Fusion to group up on Site A, but it doesn't matter. Reaps collecting Mac and gets the EMP planted. Banana Man tries to get one, but it's all up to 10K, and it's a thrifty round for Acer. That means that their total loadout value was less than like half of Fusion's value, if I'm not mistaken.
Thrifty. Yeah, I thought, wow, Bob's got a nice new word there, but I saw the tag, and yeah, a nice bit of the underdog coming out on top. That's like when, especially with a team like Acer, when they're running the SMG, and with Fusion, anything can happen. They can win those rounds regardless of what weapons in their hands. So impressive to see, but now they're in the control seat there, looking at series point. One more round to go, and Acer take away the best of 3 series. They win 2 maps and we're done for the afternoon. Fusion have a little bit of a road to go. Not as long as it was in map 1. They only have to win 2 rounds to take us to a tiebreaker. The tiebreaker will end up probably being in, well, if Fusion win these next 2 rounds, maybe their favor. And then whoever has the highest scoreline decides what side they start on.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get to that overtime point, just because Acer's picked up a lot of momentum. But anything can happen. This is Breachers, after all. Breachers VRML, to be exact, where you get the best of the best. So Fusion have the ability to do so, but they just need to bring it home. We see STD downstairs in orange vending, 2 minutes on the clock, and Mac, Reaps, both collecting a kill early into the round. 2 minutes on the clock. Tung Tung has already made their way into lockers. STD on the flag, almost sneaking up on Reaps, but so far Acer are moving quite quickly, and it might actually be oh no, it's a switch up over to site A. We're about to see everybody collapse into Cubby in just a moment, but not if Reaps doesn't get picked up by STD first. Now the EMP is stranded in lockers, and Fusion carry the momentum.
Yeah, Banana Man's low, so just took a bit of a wall bang and hotline, scoop up a double. Quickly puts STD alone, who needs to win this 1v1.
1v2 against Tung Tung, and hotline, is it enough? No, it is not. Tung Tung closing out the game with a kill. And there you have it. 7-4. Fusion cannot find a map against Acer. And it was a solid performance all around by, well, the former champion team. They're not the current reigning champion, but they are certainly showing us that they are back and they are ready to contend for the top spot once more. Fusion, again, they put up a solid game here. There were many rounds where it was very, very close, and I have a feeling with just a little bit more training, they could pull it off against Acer next time they play.
Yeah, that was a fun game to tune into, and I'm impressed with how much Acer was challenged this afternoon by the Fusion squad, but Acer definitely came in good form today. They, like you said, they had a couple of losses. They're not the undefeated team, the giant that we've seen before, but if they play like that, I don't see too many L's coming for them in the future. So definitely a solid performance, and yeah, like you said, Fusion's looking good. I'm anticipating good things from them in the late stage of the season, which we're getting close to, quite frankly. A quick shout out to everyone that tuned in. We appreciate you all stopping by, hanging out. A reminder, you can register right now for VRMLCon. The qualifiers, their dates have been announced. You can register for the qualifiers if you have purchased a VRMLCon ticket. If you are one of 4 teams that advances through to the qualifiers, you'll get a chance to play on one of 2 stages at VRMLCon. And we're going to do the semis and finals, both live at the convention. So more games played out, more chances to be on stage, and we're doing 2 stages at the convention. All of this was announced in the recent info dump videos. Hats off to Gibular Bob and a few others that contributed in, Chandler Sullivan and Chumbait, all helping to make what was excellent informational videos. They're on the VRML Network channel right now, so if you want to know what I'm talking about, just go to the videos section. All 5 VODs are up and posted. The Orion Drift channel Discord is growing rapidly. They're excited about their upcoming tournament in May, which we have secured a $1,000 prize pool for. So if you're interested in trying a new game, be sure to check that out. But the con's going to be fantastic. 5 games played out over 3 days. Get your tickets now. It's probably going to be our biggest event we've ever done. So I can't recommend enough to make sure you get out to Phoenix, Arizona for VRMLCon. And I mean, hey, if you want to play in the Breachers qualifier, you have a chance at $5,000 in cash. Ticket buys you into every tournament qualifier, so you could technically play in the Pavlov qualifier, the Onward qualifier, the Veil qualifier. You could do them all for a chance at up to $20,000 in cash. That's going to be turned out at this convention over Friday and Sunday. So again, a lot to look forward to. That's in July 25th to the 27th. It's only a few months away at this point, but all the info has been dumped and is out there, and qualifier registration is officially open. So do go check that out if you have your VRMLCon ticket. Bob, any final words?
Yeah, just a quick shout out to Wonder T-Man, who also helped with the informational videos. Fantastic work from everybody who did that. And yeah, it should be an incredible event. Make sure if you go, stop by and have Nightfire give you an autograph. I'm also open to giving out autographs as well, but my signature is not the best, so I'll have to work on that. But in any case, that is going to do it for us over here at the Breachers VRML on VRML Network. Again, shout out to Triangle Factory, and check out their new Sakura bundle as well as all the new gloves. You might have seen some of the Aesir and Fusion players tonight wearing those. But until next time, have a fantastic rest of your night, everybody. We'll catch you all in the next cast.
VRML is brought to you by Helga, the esports manager, Triangle Factory. Thanks for watching VRML.